with the changes of privacy on the internet, consumers need to have better transparency towards their data on the internet. And given that we work with some of the largest media companies on the internet, our purpose is to also allow users to know better what's happening with their data when it comes to content and advertisers and cookies and stuff like that.
The water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We're talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Nadav Shoval, welcome to Founder Secrets.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nadav's an amazing human and founder of OpenWeb. And just so glad to have you on, brother. As we do, we'll start with a little icebreaker. We'll all answer. The one I thought would be appropriate with Nadav on is, what is the hardest workout that you've done recently? All right, so it's a little bit of a humble brag, but this last weekend I was in St. Lucia, and I think I have a toddler. I mean, I know I have a toddler, but we did this hike that everybody in St. Lucia was like, you can't do it. It's impossible. Like, you can't, babies aren't allowed. The driver wouldn't take us there. Anyway, we did it anyway. It was like a 4-hour hike, 3,000 feet vertical on a mountain with the toddler on my back. And I got to tell you, it was very hard. But we did it, succeeded, and we're live. And I think that was a good workout.
Sounds fun. Taylor, what about you?
I have one. So also hiking. I was in Asheville, North Carolina. There's the Biltmore there, really, really great town. And I asked somebody there who was a hiking guide, what's a great, just hard hike to do? And he said, well, we have the Grand Canyon of the East. By the way, I've never heard it referred to this. No one's ever said that since or after. But it's down this long gravel road. I popped the rental car tires going to it. But we did it, and we got there, and we did it. It was a very long hike. My wife and I did it, and anyway, she started going way past me, and then she was taunting me. Then she was upset we were going to miss our dinner reservation, and we did miss our dinner reservation. But it was very, it was the hardest hike I've ever done. It was because it started at the top, went all the way down. It's like, that's why they call it the Grand Canyon. And then you have to come back up. So normal hikes, you come down at the end and then you're kind of easy. But this one, the hardest part's actually at the end. So it was very hard.
Thailand, New Year. I'm doing Muay Thai, Thai boxing. I went for a camp in Phuket, and I did like maybe 4 hours trainings, fairly intense, but I love it. It's so fun.
Do you get injured when, people like literally hit you, no? Or wrestle?
Yeah, but, I think what I love about, the Thai culture and Muay Thai specific, I think there is a lot of dignity in it. So we try not to injure each other too much.
What do you mean there's dignity in it?
When you fight. But when you do sparring, for example, you're not really trying to injure each other. I think it's more about, it's like almost dancing, right? It's like playing a game. So yeah, we fight, we hit, we kick, we do different stuff. But when we do training together, we're all friends. And eventually afterwards, we all sit down and having a curry and coconut water and whatever, a beer. So yeah, I think dignity is a big part of it, and taking care of the other person. It's not just like MMA.
All right, so Nadav's from Israel. I was looking up how many unicorns are in the world, which is a pretty debated topic, I found out. But let's just say that there's about 1,000 to round the numbers. And Israel has 10% of them, as in 100. I think Romania has like a handful. So it's incredible how fertile of a ground it is for startups. And I'm wondering, why do you think that is?
Well, I think, I won't go to politics because I don't like that. But if I'll talk about the tech component of it, I think it's very embedded in the culture because, you got to be creative, right? You got to be able to find the solutions in many ways to unique situations. And I think also handling stress and also group dynamics and knowing how to handle hard things as a group, as a team. So something I think it's very entrepreneurial in the culture to kind of work hard as a group with a common purpose and a goal. But I think there's many similar cultures, and of course we're seeing it also in many other countries. But I think there is something in the Israeli tech culture, the startup nation, which is resilience.
Love it. Can you walk us through like what was OpenWeb's initial idea and what is the company today?
OpenWeb's original idea was very simple. We wanted to help publishers to build communities, comments on their websites, on their apps. Publishers is like CNN or Wall Street Journal or Fox or whatever, allowing them to bring back the audience from Twitter, from Reddit to their apps, doing what is like sport events or political events or day-to-day stuff or finance or Tesla stock, Yahoo Finance or whatever. But the idea started from there. But then we realized that there is a big issue across the internet with trust and safety, with moderation, with hate speech, with the rise of racism on the internet for different minorities and groups. We just got really interested in that because some of my friends, very smart engineers, were very passionate about. Back then it was NLP and other type of technologies were available back then. We were really excited about the idea of like, hey, what if we can help publishers not only to bring the audience back, but also make it slightly better than Twitter and Facebook, because it's really toxic there. There's a lot of bullies and hate and misinformation. It's like, it's really like it's hard and very complex to do, but like, can we start by doing something a little bit better in a small scale on smaller publishers, like in English? Can we try to find algorithms to do that? And we launched a few publishers in the US, and the first version, like any tech, was like, but we got feedback. We adopted fast. We learned and we delivered, and so it started from a kind of highly moderated community platform for publishers. And today, what we're trying to do is also help users and different communities across the internet to really have thoughtful dialogues, conversations, whether it's local communities or sport or finance or whatever it would be, allowing you to have deep, real, thoughtful conversations around topics without attacks, without bullying, without kind of toxic behavior. But also with the changes of privacy on the internet, we think that consumers need to have better transparency towards their data on the internet. And given that we work with some of the largest media companies on the internet, our purpose is to also allow users to know better what's happening with their data when it comes to content and advertisers and cookies and stuff like that. And also help publishers to prepare and have kind of better relationship, what we call first-party relationship with their audience. So over time, their business can be more successful and fundamentally better, and kind of compete with Google and big tech to try to squeeze publishers to enjoy the fruits of having those conversations on their websites and apps. Because now it's not just about nice to have. Now it's actually their business model. It's about building relationship with audience and being thoughtful about it, not to abuse it, because social media sometimes abuse the data of users. So I think like privacy and trust and safety are very kind of important to think that we are very passionate about, and OpenWeb is striving to make real impact in the industry, especially when we come to media and advertising and consumer. And I think that there's a lot to do, but I'm excited of the progress.
Without getting into any politics, we're not going to talk about politics. How do you walk the line of one person's view on transparency versus another person's view on openness? Because it seems that we don't all have maybe a common language. What that means to one person may mean something different to my father, maybe something different, right, to each person. So how have you figured out how to kind of walk that line?
Common ground. Look for similarities, commonalities, lookalikes. We're trying to work with as many nonprofits and government organizations, academia, other technology companies when it comes to trust and safety, moderation specifically. Also regulators try to be ahead of the regulation kind of, and again, create a technological platform that will help publishers to be prepared when it comes to trust and safety. It's a very complicated topic, and transparency is not just about, again, what I tell you and how I tell you. It's also about trust, and building trust with consumers and publishers is not the easy thing to do because we're going to make hard things and we're going to make mistakes. But I think that we're committed to transparency, which means we try to show you the guidelines. When we work with the publisher, it's a public information. We have community guidelines, we have publishers guidelines, we have moderation guidelines, which are transparent of who we are, how we do business. Some publishers, unfortunately, in the past, we had to terminate them because they didn't meet our guidelines of transparency to users. So we kind of try to rely on third party to know what the best practices are. We try to be very transparent to the users and our publishers and clients on how we do business. We enforce those in case that one of our partners is not aligned with them. We're trying to help them to improve, but in case it doesn't happen, unfortunately, we have a lot of evidence on our site of sites that we had to terminate before previous elections, during and after, because we take our mission very seriously.
So the media industry, I always hear, VCs and founders, or VCs tell founders how you want to be in an industry that's growing. And I've heard of the media industry being referred to as kind of a declining, right, industry. And then VCs would, again, I've heard this, I'm not in the industry, but I hear is investors saying, if you provide services to an industry that's in decline, it's like catching a falling knife, in that they, sure, you're providing a great service, but if the industry is declining, then your business is going to be declining. So just let them die. Don't give them any services. Don't give them any apps. So that would be kind of, but to the opposite, you've been able to obviously grow it, to raise funds from venture. So I'm wondering, what do you think of that? Do you think that's false, or is just not a declining industry? Or how do you think through that?
It depends when you ask. It depends on usually in the inflation. It depends on the market conditions and others, because yes. Most VCs, when I started the company, absolutely hated everything around advertising. Doesn't matter the differentiation, the moat, the commercial, technological leverage. What I happened to learn through my short period of time as a young founder in the past 12 years is that advertising are the engine of the internet. Today we have 150 million monthly active users in North America, aggregated. So I could say that what I see in the pandemic, in the recessions or different climate financially, you see that Amazon go to advertising, right? You are seeing Microsoft go to advertising. You see Netflix introducing advertising. You see Spotify introducing advertising. You see Uber introduce advertising. You see Instacart introduce advertising. You see, of course, now Reddit going public, and a great company, based on advertising. So I think advertising is the engine of the internet, but the question, how do you do it right? I think there's a lot of companies do it very wrong. It's like the Wild West with a lot of companies with low margin and not a lot of differentiation. But if I look at the TAM of advertising, according to smarter people than me, McKinsey is like $400 billion. It's a huge TAM controlled by several companies that do it very well with high margins, with great multiples, and the market love them. So I think if you can build a real company with a real moat, a real differentiation, and truly support the infrastructure and do it at scale and collaborative without squeezing lemons, and be almost the kind of trusted partner between the user, the content creator, and the advertiser, then I think it's a very compelling, of course, story. Then it depends on the execution and whether you can kind of execute the premise. But rest assured that from the thousands of VCs or financial folks that I interacted in my life, the vast majority started by telling me how many horrible investment they made in advertising. What I remember, and one of my favorite investors is Jeff Horrigan Insight, because I remember when I came to him, he just got it, right? And he just understood. And I do remember that, I don't know if I should share it, but like many of his partners were like totally against it because they did some I don't want to say the name of the other stuff that were not maybe as good, but I think next time I checked, I think that they are very happy in retrospective from what the multiples are and the IRR and everything. But for me, what I just learned is that it's not about the industry that you pick or about specific thing. It's like, how big is the market for sure, is the TAM, but then how big you think is the impact and differentiation you can make in this market, and is it scalable? And there is some network effect can make it even more scalable. You have a real technological differentiation, which is resilience in scale, and if so, you might build an amazing business in a declining industry, which, by the way, the TAM is growing, but the consumer front is changing. But conversations are everywhere.
So speaking of, starting out, I mean, a business like yours is very, very difficult to start. It's difficult to get the initial traction, right? So how did you convince your first partner? What was that kind of early pitch like?
If there's any business, no, I'm sorry for cutting, but like, if there's any business which is easy to start, I don't know. My first business was washing cars and then selling soaps and then books and then toys. I don't think there is any business or building websites or forums or any tech or any delivery company or any consumer product facing or retail. It's very hard to build a business. Just fucking hard. I don't know what's easier, B2B, B2C, B2B2C, B2G. I have no clue. Yeah, the journey is really, really require discipline and a very strong core belief and a very clear, crisp goal. But I think in any industry which is something that you are passionate about and it's major enough, you can turn any lemon to lemonade, sorry for the cliche, and create an incredible business. It just takes a lot of time to compound the energy to create enough value.
I think, businesses are machines that turn passion into money, and they just like suck passion in on one end and then like eventually spit money out the other end. So how did you get that first customer? Can you share the story for OpenWeb?
Yeah, sure. It was Spot IM back then. We did a rebrand from Spot IM to OpenWeb in 2020. First customer, we don't call them customers actually, we call them partners. Sorry. But the first part, cold emails, of course. I would do every day 500 cold emails, which means I would do an average follow-up with the person, sometimes on the high tiers to the 15, 20s. Set up every 3 days, personalized. That's what I would do all day. And when I moved to the city.
Wait, say that again. You send 500 emails each day personally, but like manually yourself.
Every day. There's no way. And of course, then we have more people to do. But yeah, that's exactly. Of course, I would use different templates and different things, and then I would start A/B test the headers of my emails, all personalized all the time, but just to get coffee with people because I knew anyone here. So just meeting folks. So what I did was different. I didn't get my first customer because I didn't have a product. I moved here without a product. I did a market research. Part of the market research, I asked people, if I would build this thing, would you use it? And they told me yes. That's also the biggest learning on building B2B products. I didn't have a product. I had the partners aligned already. Actually, I went to the top. I didn't went to the small. I went to some of the biggest publishers in the world. They committed to use the product if we build it. We built it. The first version was shit, but the second one was pretty good. And we just launched it with the timing. Back then, it was on some of the entertainment, like I think people.com, and yeah, it was the first one. And then afterwards, there was AOL and others, but they were already committed to use it, and they were the one telling us what to build, if it makes sense. So the market fit was part of the build because we built with them, so they felt part of it. So they want us to succeed because we actually helped them to achieve their goals. So this is how we got the first partners. It was kind of 0 to 1.
So your revenue is like at risk. You only make money if they make money. Is that right, or is it more of a subscription? Even back then.
Back then, no business model. Back then, who thought about? I was just like, I just wanted to solve a problem. I suck.
Was it give it to timing for free?
Yeah, of course.
And then, at what point did you say, "Hey guys, I need some money"?
So we got to a crazy amount of publishers. I didn't know it's what. When I moved to the city, I didn't know what being a publisher means. I just knew communities all my life because I was building chat and messaging and IRC, and it's a different whole story. So I was, okay, I know communities, I know moderation pretty well, my friends. Publishers, whatnot, I think that I would as deeply as understand. So we immediately went to the biggest one. We didn't have a business model. They kind of liked it. And when we got to scale, our investors say, okay, like we want to put more money in the company. You guys are growing like crazy. Everybody like you. We call the investors would call our top publishers, and they will tell them like, back then Spotify is like one of our best partners. We love them. Can we invest? So the publishers wanted to invest in us. Investors got excited and then thought, okay, now we need to make money. And I was thinking, and I was learning on the industry, and I was saying, okay, if this is a declining industry, I should not do SaaS, because SaaS looks very attractive because most VCs want to hear SaaS. But if I really want to build a massive business, again, some of the biggest companies in the world are based on ads, right? Like Google, Facebook, whatever. And I was, okay, so there's a huge TAM there, but those folks, they create the content, they bring the users to the party. They're the reason social media exists. This is the fuck story. This is like content is king. They are the most important folks. It's the editors, it's the reporters, it's the talent, it's the opinions, it's the journalistic point of view, it's the research. They're the thing. It's about them. Can we build a business model? Yes, on ads that investors hate, but do it like the idea of kind of what big tech is, how's this engine working, replicate, but take in mind privacy and trust and safety, and then we introduce advertising to the platform with publishers in mind, if it makes sense, without trying to squeeze them and harm them, in asking them how to do it better in collaboration. And it became very scalable very fast because we just were trying to be collaborative. Again, we made a lot of mistakes, but like we always try to be collaborative, listen and adopt and learn from the market. And it worked fairly well.
I just want to add real quick. I think that's a key point, and people often think SaaS is the best business model, but I do think, if I can tease out what you said, is sometimes it can disalign you from your customers, right? If your company's SaaS, you're looking to squeeze as much money per month as possible, but that might not be in line with what your customers are trying to achieve. And what you're saying is you aligned with advertising revenue because obviously the publishers want more ad revenue. And if you are in some way a percent or a part of that increase, then, well, if I make you $20 and I take $1, everybody's happy.
It's a win-win, exactly. And I think it's a more scalable business. And again, if I take the point of view of what Google, specifically in my industry, edX, or others were treating content creators and publishers, we tried the learnings of what Facebook and Google kind of done wrong, not claiming, we are the best, so we know everything. We still have a lot to learn, but like trying to learn from their mistakes, from the behemoths. We're still small, to hopefully build a better product and a better platform and a better company and a better culture that will create a great company, which is not squeezing lemons, but growing the industry with it. As we say, be the resolution.
I love that. So you mentioned early days of communities. When I was a teenager, I was really involved in like Counter-Strike and IRC and AOL Instant Messenger and the Something Awful forums. And I loved, this is before Reddit, this is before Twitter, this is before all those things. And it seems that, I won't speak for you, but it seems that some of those early experiences with communities kind of drove your passion today. Is that true, or is that part of what drives it today?
Yeah, online community is basically the story of my life. In a really young age, I was diagnosed with the Kawasaki disease. I fully recovered from that, but it kind of harmed my fine motor skills. So first grade, I was already going with a really old IBM at school, because it was very hard for me to write with the pen, even back then. So I just started to use computers, and of course, with my ADHD and dyslexia, I found the internet more interesting. I started to learn a little bit on HTML and PHP. I found the IRC to be mind-blowing. The first communication of the internet mirrored IRC, and the way it worked with channels, right, and operators and what became eventually like Slack or Twitter or Reddit. And I love the idea of modes and how moderators could work and the operation of how to build communities. And I just replicated in Israel, and I built some pretty decent resize back then in the 90s, like websites and forums that end up to be even commercially successful. Back then as a child, definitely it felt a lot and overwhelming as well. But the experience was so magical for me. The idea that a lot of people from all over the world can chat and talk in milliseconds and share opinions, and there could go bad in many ways. And how do you handle weird scenarios, and how do you build a good, almost community with the real shared principles almost. And it just was fun, and I think immediately after school, I didn't finish high school, so it was, okay, what do I do? Nah, I thought it's easier to start a company.
Yeah, dude, you're making IRC sound like utopia. I remember it was pretty brutal, man. Those moderators were like really, really intense. I remember when I first moved to the US, I was still on IRC talking to the people back home, and I got on these fights with these moderators, and internet was all kind of linked together in suburbia in America. And so this guy did a denial of service attack on my computer in the US, and it took out the whole neighborhood internet, not just mine. So literally the next morning, the people I was staying with, like, hey, the internet's not working. And the neighbor, like, they literally took them a week to get the internet back because of an IRC fight that this guy took on me. So it was a wild time. Moving on to want to ask you about people, right? Obviously, companies are built out of people, and I'm curious, kind of how do you choose, or how do you pick people? In particular, there's this rock star geniuses that I think I've had in companies, but they are super hard to manage. But then you got people who might not have the genius and the rock star, but they're super loyal supporters. And yeah, I'm just wondering, how do you think through building teams in startups?
This is the most important, I think, role of CEO, right, and a founder. By far the hardest. If at least in my case, I found it to be the hardest in the journey, to learn what you are first as a founder CEO, and like what the company needs and who are the individuals that can help you to complete what's needed between what you have to provide and what the company needs at every time in the journey, and find a group dynamic and a structure that work with the harmony. Um, Honestly, I just made so many mistakes all the time and still that I just had the hard lessons over time. I thought I know so many times and I was wrong. And I thought that one way of leadership is better than another. And what I truly learned over time is the only way to create great products is to find the most amazing people in the world and make them feel and know that they are empowered to go and make mistakes and go crazy and try new things and be wild and be a little bit edgy if needed and be pushy and make mistakes and just go 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 go. And when you do it, many times it fails. It's supposed to fail, but when it works, those individuals that done it are building the muscle and the confidence that they can do something really nice together as a group. And if you can replicate this process of creativity over time, I think you can build an incredible business. So what I found that it's not about one individual, including not myself, of course. It's really about the group energy and dynamic. And it goes to cultures and shared goals and many buzzwords that I don't want to go into. But in the end of the day, you gotta have really strong common goal and belief. Otherwise, it's very hard to build a business as a bunch of individuals. It's almost impossible at scale.
So I know you're a member of YPO. Can you speak to how you view kind of peer-to-peer learning versus, mentors, learning from mentors or learning from investors or from your board? How do you collect experiences, or how do you collect, what inputs on what you're going to do next?
So if you look back, I guess, is there one thing you would do differently today if you were to start over the journey? You have to pick one thing.
Yeah, it sounds like cliche, but honestly, eventually building a business is for me, it's about discipline, right? It's making mistakes, learning again, making mistakes, learning again, and improving. If I would just be a way better listener when it comes to my team and data, and use the gut, but less the ego, if it makes sense. So have gut, less ego maybe, listen more, look at the data, don't look for evidence in the data. Let's try to really understand the data you're informing and when needed, shut down project, kill project fast.
That's awesome. No, for sure. All right. Well, look, as we wrap, our last question we like to ask that every one of us is going to answer is, what's a life hack that's made a big impact or an impact on your life and you want to share? You have one in mind?
Meditation, I think, is the biggest gift that anyone can hack to their brain. I think it will provide many other benefits, including better commercial outcome by being more aligned in the center, because creating business, it's very, very stressful. And at the end of the day, it's about managing yourself before you manage others. So I think meditation is the biggest hack that one can do, especially if one want to lead others.
How often do you meditate?
As much as I can. At least once a day.
Wow. How do you jump in? So here's what I find. So if you meditate, say in the morning, everything's calm, great meditation, but then the day just, goes crazy. So I guess, how do you stop yourself in the middle of the craziness to slow down,
Yeah. Again, especially as a leader, if you don't want to be reactive, life is tough, right? We all go through very tough things in different parts of our life. We had a situation when we lost one of our employees. It was Terrible. Terrible. Of course, you lose control and you lose the moment, and we're all humans. But what I truly understand, that businesses are so complicated to predict, and there are so many human behaviors how to predict in different situations. For example, wars. For example, pandemics. It's very hard to predict. And therefore, being aligned as a leader with yourself and your body and your soul with meditation, I think it's a very effective tool that many great people have been using for many years. Which is the best hack any human can do to themselves, I think.
I've used this platform called usertesting.com. I used it for many years. Flavio knows about it. And it's a way of, you pay testers to test, your website or test a mobile app. I love it to test, to do comparisons. So we have them do some tasks, let's say on our website, and then have them do the same tasks on a competitor website, and you can see what works. But user testing, they went public in the last year or two. It changed all their pricing. It became awful to work with. And so my hack is that there's a new player in the space. They're called userfeel.com. Kind of an odd name, but anyway, they basically directly copied user testing, and you don't have to pay a subscription. So you end up paying $60 per tester. And so you can get great insights out of just having 10 or 15 people, test your website or test your app or test through a mobile experience. So that'd be my hack.
Awesome. So you guys know Robinhood? Yeah. I gotta, it's like a little, it's just financial hack. You probably already know about this, but right now you get a 3% match if you move like any sort of account, retirement account, or like other brokerage account over there, and you just get like 3% cash for doing that for like your Roth or 401k. Very tactical. I do have one last question to Nadav. With AI is like taking over the world, I'm sure you've seen a lot of 37 Signals and a lot of these companies announcing, even like Chamath is announced a way to like build a new way of undercutting every SaaS company out there, because you can build it cheaper now with AI and undercut them in price, or even not do a SaaS model at all, just have a one-time fee. And because software is going to become so much cheaper to build and maintain, I was curious, what are your thoughts on that? You're an investor a lot in SaaS, and
I agree. I think that SaaS will make people more productive. Engineers more productive, architects more productive, designers more productive, execs, etc. So yeah, for sure. I think creating software always should become cheaper and more accessible. It's, I think, a shared goal of all of us, and it's a fantastic thing.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
The water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.